Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Wayland!
Well, good morning, Ray.
How are you?
I'm good. I just need to. Are we recording already?
Well, I just do it so I don't forget.
Oh, okay. Good. Let me full screen this. There we go.
Man, you have a beautiful camera. I don't know what you're using, but mine looks like crap. Always looks like crap.
No, I got a Logitech. I don't know anything about them. It was cheap and I got it and it works.
This is my iMac and I don't know. It's a whatever. Who knows?
Oh, it's a camera on the computer?
Yeah. Piece of junk, I guess. But so how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well for an old guy.
I know that fairly well.
Yes. I probably know it a little better than you.
I've been getting up lately feeling stiff. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? It's not like I'm out chopping wood every day, you know?
Right. Yeah, I do the same thing. I wake up kind of achy right now, but I have exercises I do in the morning, so it kind of limbers me up.
Was it like yoga or something? Give me a visual picture here of what I shouldn't be thinking of.
Oh, yeah, right. You don't want to see that. It's they're lumbar exercises actually for stretching out my lumbar and strengthening my abs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to help, help keep my lower back calm down.
Do you have lower back problems?
Yeah, I have two things. I have a herniated disc at L4, L5, and then I have something called spondylolisthesis, which is one of the vertebrae, it's L5 actually, has slipped forward a little bit. It's quite common. They usually slip a little bit and stay put, so mine is staying put. But it does give me some low back pain and just little discomfort. It's not bad at all. I mean, It's really not bad at all. I can't do heavy lifting anymore.
How do you even do that to your back? Was it an accident or, well, obviously you wouldn't do it on purpose, but I mean, was it at work or?
No, it's, this will be a great beginning. When I was 5.5 years old, I was living on a farm and I was run over by a tractor.
What?
And so, yeah, so that set me up for a lot of joint problems and arthritis stuff later on in life.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I fell under the rear tire of the tractor, which is the big tire.
Yeah.
And it covered me from my neck all the way to my butt. Didn't break any bones. Didn't do anything. It left a tire print on my back and pushed all the air out of my lungs, but that was it. I was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days and they sent me home and everything was
What?
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
I know. I made the national news.
Boy, run over by tractor. Oh.
Yeah, North Country boy run over by tractor.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 1952.
Jeez. Wait, how old were you in 52?
I was
6? Is that what you said?
5.5, yeah.
Oh my God.
I just turned 73.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Man, I just turned 65, so
Wow.
it's terrible. I wanted to talk to you initially anyway about your business.
Oh, sure.
Because I find it fascinating. Can you give me a little bit of information about what it is, how you started it, and we'll talk more about it, but start there.
Right. Well, when I was in high school, I collected 78 RPM records. I just got interested in them, and when I graduated from high school, I had 2,000 records and 28 record players. You know, anything from old Victrolas to large record players from the 40s. I had an early stereo, had a bunch of players, and so I listened to that music all through high school because I was collecting it. So I played the records and listened to them. So I got to listen to the music of the first half of the 20th century. Then when I was in college, I was at Antique Alley in Northwood, and I was looking for old records, and I stumbled onto a pile of sheet music and started looking through the sheet music because that was the paper version of the music I listened to on the 78s. And I saw two of them that just knocked me on my ass. And I have them here. This is a, let me get it back here. This is a five plate color lithograph.
Wow.
Piano solo from 1906. And then the other one that I found was this one from 1900 called The Midnight Fire Alarm. And so I got interested in collecting these pieces of music by the publisher that made them in New York. They get even more dramatic. This is one from 1903 called Arizona, which has an amazing graphic.
Yeah, yeah. This is fascinating.
Yeah. So this is 117 years old now.
Dude, you're touching it with your bare hands. Shouldn't you have gloves on or something? Like,
I was tested. I'm negative. It's okay. And then they're also historical. This is the same company, but this is 1898. And the two guys shaking hands are Fitzhugh Lee, who was a Confederate soldier, and Admiral George Dewey, who was a hero in the Spanish-American War. And they're shaking hands because it's the reconciliation between the Northern and Southern armies to fight the Spanish-American War together.
Wayland, these are originals?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
So I've learned a ton about American music and popular history by being a sheet music dealer for 36 years now. So that got me interested in collecting, and they started getting expensive. So I started selling sheet music on the side to make a little extra money. And pretty soon, like in a year and a half, I had a full-time business on my hands.
Okay. So many questions. So many questions. First of all, how come those aren't in a vault or at least in some protective covering?
Oh.
100 and something years old?
Well, the best way to store paper is flat and dry, believe it or not. You can buy archival quality boxes, but the stuff just doesn't deteriorate. I mean, I've had these pieces for, 40 years.
And they're not fading or anything? They're not?
No, they don't. The old inks don't fade.
Well, they're lead, that's why.
Well, I don't know.
So those sheet things, the sheet music you held up, those are covers, obviously, like an album would have a cover, right? And
right.
And inside is just all of the music. How many? All of the parts for all of the song?
Whoops. Yeah, it's piano music.
Got ya.
So you
tell
can,
my ignorance.
Everybody had a piano at the turn of the century, and everybody played piano. So the Industrial Revolution made pianos easy to make and affordable to regular people.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody had pianos, and that made the sheet music business explode. So, popular sheet music drove the music industry from about 1890 to about 1950.
Wow.
In other words, there was more sheet music sold than anything else, including records and machines and all that. The big money was in sheet music.
So, okay, so there are obvious questions like, over time, has the most popular request shifted? I mean, what's popular right now? What do people ask? Are people still buying it? They must be, right?
Yeah, I have collectors all over the country and some international ones. And mostly the most collectible stuff is movie and show tunes, songs written for film or songs written for the theater. Those are the two biggest collectible categories right now.
Good.
There's categories that people collect. There's all kinds of reasons and dozens of categories.
Are people looking for the originals, or do they just need a copy of music?
Oh, no, I only deal with the originals.
Man.
Everybody wants originals, and it just comes to me. I don't have to go out looking for it anymore, because I'm the last major sheet music dealer in the country.
In the country?
Yeah.
So there's not much competition then, I'm guessing.
No,
when you're the only one.
There's some, but there's not a lot.
And how many pieces would you say you have right now?
Well, I don't have a lot right now, but I'm working on a large collection that's residing in a private school near Philadelphia. It was one of my customers who died and left his estate to the school, and he left all his sheet music, and it took him 6 years to call me to ask me to handle a collection, but it was 37,000 pieces of music.
37,000?
Yeah, I'm working on that.
I can't even get my head around this.
I know. Well,
how much room does 37,000 pieces of sheet music take up?
Well, it's 100 boxes, and I would say they're about 14 by 14 by 14. So there's 100 of those boxes. I handle them 20 at a time because that's all I can get into my office is 20.
Wow.
So
obviously some must be worth more than others.
Oh yeah, there's some stuff that isn't worth anything at all, and then there's other stuff that's worth a ton. I mean, most of your listeners will have heard of Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart. Wrote Babes in Arms and a whole bunch of Pal Joey, a whole bunch of shows in the 20s and 30s. And I just sold an early song of theirs called I'd Like to Poison Ivy. It's a cute song.
Who would have thought that was popular?
Yeah, it went for like $1,600.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that fairly average, or is that like just a rare one?
That's exceptional. Yeah,
Got you.
That's exceptional. My regular price range is like $25 to $75. I try to focus on that kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
But, Cole Porter's Don't Fence Me In isn't one of those titles.
Got you.
Fiddler on the Roof isn't.
Yeah.
All the shows that we know are not really marketable.
Gonna have my coffee here. Gotta get my head wrapped around all this. Back when you were collecting 78s, what was the music genre you were most invested in at that point?
I like listening to popular music. I liked listening to the Victor Red Seal one-sided records, which were the Metropolitan Opera stars from the early 20th century. Caruso, Gallicurci, all those people, Jascha Heifetz, Horowitz.
Did you play an instrument yourself?
No, I had about a week in the high school band, but I didn't really like it.
So this is just really literally a love of music.
Yeah, I was in high school chorus for 4 years. Had the same music teacher for 6 years. He came in when I was in the 6th grade, so actually 7 years. So 6, 7, 8, and then high school, I had the same music teacher. He was brilliant and wonderful, and I just learned a lot from him.
And what year did you start collecting those 78s?
Oh, probably around 60 or 61.
So the early rock years, right?
Right. But early rock 78s are very hard to find. So.
Yeah. But I'm just curious. This is fascinating about. So you were into the more of the opera genre, while Elvis Presley's taken off and doing his thing. That's pretty interesting.
I came of age when the Beatles started too. I mean, I was trying to think. I was 12 when I heard American Bandstand for the first time. So, I would go out to record hops and dance, and I lived all the music through the 60s and 70s. That was part of my life. I listened to other stuff. I really liked old popular music. But during my teenage years, I was totally into rock and roll and, the Beatles and the Monkees and all that stuff.
So 78s were kind of getting rarer, right? During the time. I remember the 45s were coming out, and
when
an A and a B side for all that.
Yeah, it was all 45s. Kids bought 45s.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So 78s, where were you finding 78s? Because they had to be, there were 33s, there were 45s, and 78s were like on their way out, right?
Well, they weren't making them anymore, but you could go to any antique shop and find a huge stack of old records. It was everywhere. It was literally everywhere. And they were usually $1 a piece. Sometimes they were like $10 a box or whatever. So you could get huge amounts of 78s real easy in the 60s.
Yeah. That's crazy. So nowadays, are people buying them just simply to collect them, or are they actually using them for things?
What are you talking about? What?
Well, I guess I'm just thinking of sheet music, so it's something you would read and play.
Right.
So,
a lot of my people are piano players, and they play the music. Most of them are older. I have two collectors in their 20s. One is an incredible ragtime piano player who's coming to the City Auditorium next spring, which I arranged. Trying to think, the other one is like a choir director and a church musician. But those are the only two young collectors I have. Everybody else is 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are these things that they just can't find on the web anywhere? I mean,
I deal with stuff you can't find on the web.
Yeah. So they have to go to somebody like yourself to buy them?
If they want to get the original music, yeah.
Yeah.
Sheet music collectors want to collect the original music. They don't want to copy, they don't want to, they want a JPEG.
Yeah, right. It's like the old album art. So I guess it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so are you by yourself? I mean, this is a business which you have other people who help you?
I've had part-time helpers from time to time over the years, but it's basically a solo business. Yeah.
Done by spreadsheet? I mean, how do you keep a record of everything you've got?
No, I don't have a spreadsheet program. I don't know how to do Excel or any of those things. I looked at spreadsheets when I got a computer back in the 80s, and spreadsheets just weren't going to work for what I needed to do and communicate about sheet music. Spreadsheets just wouldn't work. So I found a DOS-based data program called Findex. And so instead of putting things in a cell, when you create a record, you have a completely blank page, and you can set up the page any way you want. So over the 36 years, I have a database with over 200,000 sheet music titles in it. It's everything I've ever handled.
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. How many do you have on hand at any one time?
Well, like I said, I don't have very many right now. I probably have maybe 1,000 sheets in the office right now, but I'm about to go to Philadelphia to pick up the third set of 20 boxes. And so I'll have 20 boxes of sheet music in the office, and
wow. That'll
be, let's see, 800 times 20. That'll be about 15,000 pieces.
That's just a lot of.
It's a lot
of paper, baby.
Well, I've always kept a really low profile, and about 5 years ago, I realized, oh my God, people are going to think I'm a little old man with a box of sheet music, and I thought I better start telling the truth here.
So, how far away? What's the furthest away somebody has asked for something? Like Kuala Lumpur? I mean, where do you ship it to?
The furthest away is Australia. I have a good collector in Australia.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I have 2 or 3 collectors in England and 1 in Scotland and a couple in Canada.
Are there like conventions for this kind of stuff?
There used to be, but there's not much anymore. There used to be sheet music clubs, but they're all gone. Because the collectors are so spread out, it's hard to get them together.
Yeah.
There's still an annual ragtime festival in Sedalia, Missouri, but I've never been to it. I went to a sheet music. You're freezing, Ray.
Yeah, one of us is, right?
Well, you did, but my internet connection is unstable.
Not much unlike the user.
Well, I may be unstable, but I'm well organized.
So, you have a decent connection right now?
Seems to be working. Yeah, you're not frozen anymore.
Okay. I want to move over into the theater realm, right? Unless you have more that you really want to talk, because I don't know anything about sheet music, so I only have.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we can go to theater.
Only so many questions I can ask there.
That's pretty interesting too. Well, I assume the sheet music was interesting. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating because it's a niche market that I don't think many people ever think about. Like stamps, or does it have a technical name for collecting sheet music?
Not that I know of. It might, but I don't know.
Dude, you need to invent one.
I got one more sheet music story that people always ask me, and you didn't, but they always ask me, what's the most I've ever gotten for a piece of sheet music?
Yes.
Well, I sold a piece of sheet music for $4,000 once.
How rare was it?
But you're going to know the song.
Oh, really?
Most people know the song Bill from Showboat.
Yeah.
You know, he's just my Bill, an ordinary.
Right.
Well, Showboat was 1927, but the song Bill was written for a show 10 years earlier called Oh Lady Lady. And it was cut from the show. And so only a few copies were ever printed and released. And that was the song that I sold for $4,000, because it's got music by Jerome Kern, but the lyrics are by P.G. Wodehouse, which is a very famous literary figure. So there's a lot of people, you know, that want that piece of music, but it's just not out there.
Wow. So the original one you have is from Old Lady Lady?
Yeah, the original I had was from 1917.
Wow. Okay, that is a great story.
Yeah.
So things like that fascinate me, because when like summertime comes and the music starts playing and you start hearing all the background to how songs were created and how one artist wrote it and passed it on to another artist who didn't want to do it, and it ends up with this third artist or fourth artist, and it becomes this great big hit. Right. Those stories fascinate me.
Oh yeah, me too. I love them.
A great resource I like to look at once a week is Mark Stein. You know Mark Stein?
No, I don't.
Okay, once a week on his website, he lists a song and then gives all the background, and he talks about the writers and the lyricists and the process that they went through in marrying up the two, and how some of them loved to work with each other and some hated each other, but they would do it, you know, and how Sinatra would bring certain writers in to help him compose certain songs. Obviously, you can tell I don't know what I'm talking about with music, but so all of that stuff always fascinates me. So that's a great story about Lady Lady.
Yeah, thanks.
Have any more?
No, we don't have enough time. Let's move on to theater.
You were very, very involved, that's the word I'm going to use, with the Community Players of Concord, right? For a long time.
I still am. I'm the current vice president on the board.
So let's go back to your first time with them. How did you meet up with them? Have you always had a love for theater? Was that tied in with your sheet music kind of stuff? And give us a little history of your ride with the Community Players.
When I was in the 7th grade, this music teacher that I talked about, his name is David Killam. I think he's still alive in northern New Hampshire, but he's in his 90s now. But anyway, he did an operetta called Tulip Time, and I got cast in the operetta as the burgomaster of a Dutch village. You know, no stereotyping at all. Huh. But so I was on stage for the first time in 7th grade and had a great time. And so then I got involved in theater in high school, and I did 8 plays in 4 years. We did 2 a year. And at my senior year, I actually was in the opera A Mile and the Night Visitors. So I had a theater background in terms of being a performer. But then I went to UNH, and I went into the Johnson Theater because I thought I'd get involved in theater in college. And being a young kid from a small northern New Hampshire town, the Paul Creative Arts Center and the Johnson Theater just scared the crap out of me. You know, I just thought I wasn't good enough, or I couldn't measure up to any of these people. So I didn't do theater for like 30 years.
Oh, wait, you were that shocked, that stunned by what you saw that you didn't do anything?
Have you been in the Johnson Theater at UNH?
No. I don't think so.
Still is pretty nice, but back in the late 70s, my partner Lacey met Jim Weber, who was involved with the Players, and he got us to go see some shows. And he was also working for me part-time in my pottery studio, and the Players decided to do Annie, the musical Annie, and I think that was 83, 84, and Jim knew about my skills background to some degree because he knew I could build and make stuff. And so he suggested that I do the set design for Annie. Now, this is a guy who has no background in technical theater, never worked backstage, never designed a set, never built anything like that. And I had just seen the national tour of Annie in Boston and was blown away by the set changes, how smooth and fluid they were.
Yeah.
And so I designed I got the job. I did a set design. I built a model. I did floor plans for every scene. I just did it all. I just made it all up because I thought that's the way it should go. And they liked the design and we went with it. I bought the fabric and sewed 5 full stage drops and then drew them out, and we had a painting crew that painted them all. And there were wagons and, there was just tons of stuff. It was an amazing, we had a full stage railroad trestle for the Hooverville scene. And
That's remarkable.
that was my beginning in theater as a set designer. So I designed, every other year I designed a set for All in Fine. And I'll always be grateful to her and the producers for accepting me as a completely inexperienced set designer. And, we just blew the roof off the building, and it was amazing.
Yeah. What's the most complicated one you've ever designed?
Oh, that has to be Lucky Stiff. I couldn't find a designer for Lucky Stiff, the musical.
Yeah.
And I went to Jed Holland, who agreed to music direct, and I told him I couldn't find a set designer, and he said, well, you can design it, Wayland. I sort of said, okay. But the problem with that show is that in Act 1, which is an hour and 4 minutes, the locations changed 19 times in an hour and 4 minutes.
Wow. Why would somebody write like that? What? Jeez.
Well, to make people like me happy.
Oh. Yeah, I guess.
But that was the most challenging one. But it was a ton of fun. We had a great time.
And so your involvement began, when did you say, the 70s? Is that what you said?
No, probably 83, 84. I can't remember the year of Annie, but it was around 83, 84.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting you talk about
what?
it's interesting that you talk about the different drops that you had painted for the sets.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hardly do it anymore, but when I did The King and I back in the 80s, they had brought in professional drops.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought it was brilliant, the way that the scenes moved. They just lift another curtain and another drop, and there's a scene already waiting behind and behind and behind.
Right.
To where but nowadays it's all just one set.
Right.
I mean, it's fascinating how it's changed so much.
Yeah, it has. A lot of it has to do with budgets. Cast sizes have reduced because it's hard to pay in professional theater, which is the source of our material. It's hard to pay 35 actors, and a dance ensemble and a choral ensemble. There just isn't the money for it.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff gets big and spectacular, but based on complicated unit sets.
How old are the players now?
We're in our 93rd season.
My God.
We formed in 1927.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been with them for 36 years.
That is a lot of people to funnel through a company.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My gosh. Over your tenure with them, anything stand out in particular? Shows that you're just like, you can't believe they could be done again, or just that are spectacular that stand out in your mind?
Well, a couple of recent ones, not mine, but a couple of recent ones that I liked was the design and execution of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And Wally's production of Sweeney Todd was awesome. I mean, the set for that show was incredible.
Yeah, I saw both of those. I was blown away.
Yeah. But
go ahead.
In terms of my personal preference, I mean, I really liked all the shows that I did and was happy with the way they all came out. But the big one was the Full Monty. I mean, hands down, that was the best experience ever.
Yeah? Why?
Well, it was the kind of show that changed lives, The thing I tell people about the Full Monty is that when professional companies do the Full Monty, they come into town, the curtain goes up, the clothes come off, and they leave town and they're not performing for anybody they know. But a community theater does it, and you're performing for your friends and family and neighbors.
Yeah.
So it was a brave choice for the players to do it. And it stretched everybody so much in terms of what you had to accomplish and where you had to get, that it was amazing for everybody. This is really personal, but I always carried a lot of shame with me. A lot of people carry a lot of shame about one thing or another. Mm-hmm. And that just all evaporated during the process of doing the full Monty, because of the character development I had to encourage and the issues we had to deal with and all of that. And then one of the guys who played the best friend, who was the short kind of heavy guy, you know, he in his life dealt with all the issues that the character in the play dealt with. And so for him to go through that transition to get to be successful and proud and accomplished and feeling good about yourself at the end just changed his life. It was amazing. So that's when I really love theater.
It's not often you hear someone say that a play or a production changed lives.
Yeah, you don't. But that's what's good about it.
So when whoever picked it, did anybody have any idea that might happen when they were reading it or deciding to put it up? Or did you know during maybe the read through that this was going to be different?
No, I didn't, but I knew what I was dealing with. The reason I was attracted to the play in the first place, a musical actually, was I had seen the movie and really loved the British movie. And then I had seen the American musical, which was set in Buffalo instead of Sheffield, England. But the thing I liked about it was it dealt really well with men's issues and men's sense of worthlessness if they don't have a job, or sense of failure. And it takes men from that really dark place all the way through all the stuff they deal with to a place of triumph and joy. And so that's what was interesting to me about the musical. I mean, I didn't really care that people took their clothes off. I didn't think that was what the musical was about. You know, for me, it was about the transformation from feeling awful to feeling wonderful. And so that's what I directed.
Interesting. Did the whole cast feel that way?
Oh, yeah. Everybody. Everybody. We still talk about it.
There aren't many plays that would do that. And did you think that came across to the audience as well? Or was that just an internal thing?
No, it totally came across. I mean, I never leave the stuff on stage. I always move it out to the audience, because it's okay to understand and think and feel what your character is understanding and thinking and feeling, but you got to get it across the footlights.
Right.
So that it lands in the audience's minds and hearts. The audiences went insane every night. I have never seen a musical that leaves an audience in such an elevated place as the Full Monty. You know, there are a lot of triumphant musicals out there, but nothing. I saw Full Monty everywhere within 100 miles for a couple of years, and even the bad productions left the audiences feeling wonderful. So,
was there anything in particular that you guys did differently that made it very personalized? I mean, besides the fact that it's you guys, you folks, but.
Yeah. I don't know that I did it. I don't know that I did anything differently, but I really worked hard on character development, so that the characters were just really clear to the audience and to the actors, but to the actors first, but then getting it out to the audience.
Yeah.
We had I had 3 sort of private sessions. I had an evening with all the men where we worked on emotional expression and emotional resonance. And then I had the same evening with the women. So we just worked on feeling and portraying and projecting emotions. And then I had an evening with just the men in the show who took their clothes off in some manner. There were 3 auditioners that took some clothes off, and then there were the 6 final men that actually got naked on stage. And I had a night with just those men where we did a bunch of sort of guided meditations and a whole bunch of series. I played music and stuff to bind them together and let them know that it's okay to do what they're doing, and also that they're supporting each other. I mean, that was the whole point. so that nobody felt alone. Everybody felt connected. All the guys felt like that all the other guys had their back. So that was an incredible evening.
For people who may not know the show, when you say they take their clothes off, and we're talking here a community theater production.
Right.
Did they take their clothes off?
They were totally naked at the end of the show, standing on stage in a line. But the lighting shifts. I don't know if you saw the show or not, but there is a lighting shift. They're backlighted, and I had a pin spot on each face. So all you saw was the silhouettes of their bodies and the triumphant expression on their face. But they were standing there totally naked.
Man, oh man.
Then the lights went black and they run off stage and they get into their white bathrobes and come back on and take bows.
Yeah, that would be tough. That would be very tough to do.
It was very hard, and the actor that seemed to have the least problem with it was the one that had the most problems with it when we actually got to the theater. So there was a lot of massaging of egos and using psychology and all this sort of stuff to help people and encourage them and support them so that everybody knew it was okay.
What was the audition process for that like?
Well, nobody took their clothes off in the audition process.
Okay, that's good.
I just wanted to know they could act and sing and dance.
Mm-hmm.
They were there because they wanted to be in the show. So the disrobing was obviously something that was on their minds, but it was nothing I was going to make them do in auditions. So it was just a regular audition. It was an acting, singing, dancing audition.
All right. Well, I couldn't have done it, but.
Well, it sort of helps that I have 28 undergraduate credits in psychology.
Pulling out the old tool bag, huh?
That's right.
Are there shows that, besides that one, that were more difficult to mount over the years than others? You guys mostly do your shows in the Audi, right? Right. Are there some which were just almost nightmarish to put in there?
No, the first one I directed was pretty difficult. I did Little Shop of Horrors, which is a little musical.
Yeah.
But of course I wanted it to be a big musical, so we did. But the put in and the technical setup and getting everything working was kind of a nightmare. We had panels that slid back and forth in tracks, and we had counters that moved on and off in tracks, and we built a second stage on top of the Audi stage and covered the orchestra pit because Orrin, the dentist's chair, rose up out of the orchestra pit.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Yeah, it was. And then we had the front stoops. At the end, there were ropes that, like clotheslines, that went up to the second balcony, and I had designed and built a series of vines that moved out and over the audience's head at the very finale. So like the plant was not only moving down stage, arms of the plant were coming out over the audience. So it was a hugely technical show.
Where was the orchestra? If you had the chair coming up out of the pit.
Oh, the orchestra was backstage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was backstage, upstage right. In the corner.
Got you. Before I forget, and I hope I don't, so I'm going to get it out right now. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk to you about that scrim you made for 1776.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you did it. I really don't. And it boggles my mind. I was thinking about it last night when I was kind of gathering my thoughts about the interview. How did you do that? And I mean, it was enormous. It was elegant and exquisite. And have you ever done something like that again?
Well, thank you, first off. And no, that was the first time I'd ever done that. And it was 20 by 20. And what I did was I took a copy of the Declaration of Independence, and I took just the bottom part with all the signatures and some of the end text. And I took it, and I had a big photocopier at home for my business. I mean, this is like a big floor photocopier, like you see at Staples, that size photocopier. Yeah. And I I just kept enlarging the signatures in the text until it was 20 by 20. So there was like dozens of pieces of paper taped together, and I just laid it under the fabric, and then it was all drawn with magic marker. So it was just
wow. I would not have thought that.
Yeah. But getting it into the Audi and getting it to work in the Audi, because it was 20 feet high, I had to double trip it to get it to fly in or out. And that was an interesting process, and fun. I mean, it was and they told me they weren't going to have the scrim at the end of the show. And I said, you got to have the scrim,
It was beautiful.
It's what it's about.
It was beautiful. I mean, it was breathtaking to go look back at it, and it was see-through. So for people who didn't see it, you could see through it. It was lit so that you could see them signing the declaration behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, oh,
and then the light shifted and you couldn't see them anymore. You just saw the declaration of the paper.
Yeah. Oh, what a moment. What a moment.
It was. They give me goosebumps.
Oh, no, it was remarkable. It really was breathtaking to see it happen.
Well, thank you.
Have you done anything like that since?
Sort of. In Lucky Stiff, there was the first Lucky Stiff was played in front of a white scrim, which basically hid the band because the band was upstage center. So I created and rigged up a cranking system that would raise the scrim up in a scallop fashion, so it scalloped up on both sides so that the band could come forward and be part of the nightclub scene. That was an interesting rigging thing. And the other one was in Lucky Stiff there was a downstage right scene that took place on a train that was on wagons. And then the next scene was in an airplane, which was up on a platform above the band. And so we did a light shift so you could go from the train to the plane and then back again to the train.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man,
and honest to God, Ray, I just make all this stuff up. I don't have a background in theater. I just make it up.
Are there copious amounts of drugs involved when you're doing this? Because
well, I've switched to Tito's. I used to be Stoli, but now I'm Tito's. No, my drug history is there, but it's very short, and it's a very long time ago.
Oh, man. Oh, man. How have things changed over the years with the players? Any noticeable changes? Now, you added the building, the rehearsal structure there, and right. That's incredible in and of itself.
Oh, yeah. We have an amazing facility.
That's a prized possession right there.
Yeah.
So how have things changed? Just over the years, you've seen a lot of actors come and go.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen a lot of shows, obviously.
Right.
So just kind of, I'm not even sure what I'm asking here, but there's a lot of history there.
Right.
So, and you're one of the few people who know the history. So how have things moved on or changed a bit for the players over that time?
Well, I think we're still an amazing organization. We're very welcoming. We're very open. We're always using new people. But we're a big organization. We have a board of directors that's currently 11, but we have over 30 committee chairs doing different parts of the organization.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so there's like publicity and database and fund drive and, all newsletter, membership, all kinds of committees to take on all the different aspects of doing theater. We're having the same issues that every other community theater group in the country is having, and that is finding sufficient amount of volunteers and particularly finding younger people who are interested in, being committed to the organization and doing a lot of volunteer work. Over the last maybe 15 years, a number of us have talked about and noticed that community theater in New Hampshire is becoming an actor's game where actors go from company to company to company to do the roles that they want to do.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have like a home place where they not only act, but they sweep the rehearsal floor, or, you know, they clean the toilets, or they work in the box office, or they do committee work or stuff like that. We're constantly trying to find people to do committee work, and we'd really like to find, we could use 20 people that are 40 and under. I mean, we really could. But that's nationwide. It's happening all over the place.
So yeah, I know it's funny. We have a lot of theater groups. Back, what, in the 70s, 80s, there weren't many.
Right.
And now there's hundreds.
Right.
And I've often spoken to like Matt McGonigal and some other folks about how that's good and bad. I mean, if you're an actor and somebody's doing a show you want to do, you can go do it nowadays. But it thins out the pool as well. There's only so many people acting or doing anything. And it also brings up that problem that you're talking about, where they don't have a home base. They just kind of freelance wherever they go. So I could see where that would be a real problem for you folks.
Right, but also for all these plethora of small theater groups that have popped up over the last 10 years, you know, all of the jobs of doing a show fall on the shoulders of one or two people. Oh, great. Let me turn this off.
So your parole officer?
Oh, yay. No, my bicycle's ready.
Yeah. Well, that's comforting.
Yes, it is. So anyway, yeah, we need more people that are willing to do backstage stuff as well. My great example of what a community theater person is was Joan Gardino. You must remember her.
Yeah, I do.
You know, when I first saw her, she was an actress on the stage, and she was, you know, a professional performer and was incredibly talented. I got to work with her a couple of times directing her, but also became very good friends with her. But it's like one day you'd see her have the lead or second lead in a play on stage, and the next production, she's vacuuming the Audi floor and cleaning the toilets. And I thought, okay, that's what it's about. You just are willing to do whatever's necessary and as much as you can, you know, for the group that you love.
Yeah. It's funny, a lot of these theater groups nowadays don't even have homes. I mean, they don't even have places to rehearse in some of them.
Right.
Which is really kind of bizarre. I mean, it's a distorted definition, I think, of community theater. I mean, we think about community theater as being the old Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland, let's put on a show kind of thing. That has evolved.
Yes.
A lot.
I sort of hate to say this, but it's just like we do community theater, but the community piece is fading.
Yeah, that's very true.
The theater piece is not, but the connections and interrelationships and sense of being together doing stuff is different. I mean, some of us old folks talk about, you know, this isn't at all what it was like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, back then it was more, I don't want to say like a club kind of thing, but it was more of a social attraction as well.
Right.
You know, you were doing it. The show was almost a byproduct of getting together to you know, want to meet. And
right.
Now, I don't know. There's just a lot of groups that they're very nomadic. They
right.
They just sit there floating.
We've done some things that sort of try to help build community. Like for audition nights at the Players, we now have what we call greeters. We have a couple of people come in, and all their purpose there is to welcome people in and talk to people that are new and answer questions and help the process of auditions and make people feel comfortable. I mean, that's the whole point of having greeters. We also try in the rehearsal process to have a potluck at one point for all the cast and crew during, like, halfway through the rehearsal process. And so we get to introduce everybody to everybody. And, you know, we try to do things that help build community or keep community going.
Yeah. Yeah. How many shows a year do you folks, were you doing?
Well, we do four main stage shows, of 3 sort of adult main stage shows, and usually a children's theater project show in October, which is a full tilt.
Run by Karen.
Yeah, Karen Braz. And this was the 25th year of the Children's Theater Project.
As a director slash performer yourself, there's shows that the players haven't done that you personally would like to see done that really they're kind of on your bucket list that you'd like to get out and do?
Oh yeah, there's two in particular. Fun Home is one of them.
Never heard of it.
It's a musical. It's the first time. It's first time two women won Best Musical Score, Best Musical Score Tony in the history of Broadway. And
is that recent?
Yeah, just a couple years ago. The female composer, female lyricist, and it's also the first time that the main character in a musical is a lesbian and a cartoonist. She does graphic novels, and it's sort of the story of her childhood and her life. It's a brilliant, brilliant show. And then the other one I really want to do is Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh.
The music in that show is killer. And
I know nothing about it except that everybody who has ever seen it just raves.
Yeah, I saw it I got to see the national tour in Boston, and it was breathtaking. And it's all about modern communication and teenagers and social media and what's good and bad and all about all that stuff, and how much trouble people can get into through those modes. So I just love it.
Have you approached the players with either one of those?
I don't think they're available yet.
Oh, they're not?
They're too new, and then the pandemic hit, so
right.
Everything's going to be delayed in terms of permissions.
Yeah, this is a mess.
Yeah, because when the regional theaters come back, they're going to get first dibs at all the new shows, and community theaters have to wait.
Yeah. Are there any of all the new groups that are out there? Are there any that impress you? Have you seen any real productions, or had you seen any real productions that you're like, boy, this group is really rocking it?
Well, I haven't seen much local theater in the last 8 years or so. I mean, I'll occasionally go see something, but certain productions, knock me out. Like, oh God, what was the name of it? Takes place in a trailer. Woman thinks she has a Jackson Pollock painting. It was at the Hatbox.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah, I just thought that was incredible.
The Hatbox has brought in some great stuff.
Yeah. So every once in a while, I'll see something that I really, really like. I don't always like professional theater when I see it. I mean, it's not professional versus community. It's good versus not so good, or bad.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and probably a lot of folks are about to defriend me, but I was watching Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
On Disney Plus.
Yep.
Not a fan.
Oh, really?
Not a fan.
That's okay.
2.5 hours of hip hop and rap, just not my thing. Not my thing. So that ends friendship for a lot of folks there. The Christmas list just got smaller.
Ray, it's a free country. You don't have to like Hamilton.
Well, I'm in a minority. I know I am, but
I assume you like the history of it, but
I do. I just, the production just didn't do much for me. I mean, it was pretty much one set, and I don't know, couldn't get into it much. Anyway.
Well, I can't imagine it would work as well on TV as it would on stage.
Right. That's maybe that was part of the problem. It was.
I avoided it for years. A really good friend of ours is the company manager of Hamilton on Broadway, and he was the one that got the players 4 tickets, house seats to Hamilton that we could raffle for.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Raffle those tickets. So anyway, we kept avoiding. I'm not into hip hop and rap. I gave up on popular music in the mid '80s, and he kept saying, "You got to see it. You got to see it." And he finally comped us into the national tour in Boston. So we went down to see it because I'm not going to say no to that. And I was really impressed. I just thought it was brilliant. I mean, I think he's a brilliant writer, The staging was phenomenal. The diction was flawless.
Yes, I will agree with that.
And I liked learning. I liked being exposed to all the history. I liked the mixed race casting. I liked pretty much everything. I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I did.
All right. Well, I remain singular in my position. So a lonely meeting of those who did not like Hamilton. We're a very small group.
It may well be, but if you get a chance and you want to spend $200 or $300 and see it on stage, I would recommend you give that a whirl.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, if I have a spare $200 or $300, I'm pretty sure. If I have a spare $200 or $300, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be for a theater ticket.
Okay.
What are the players? What does their future look like? Have you guys got plans for, I don't know, 5-year projection? What are you just gonna? You think it's just going to continue as it is, or are there things that you, as a group, are wanting to achieve?
Well, the biggest thing we want to do right now is survive.
Amen.
I mean, we canceled all our productions in 2020. We're still scheduled for the February show and the May show. I'm actually directing the winter show. It's a John Cariani play called Last Gas. But we don't even know if we're going to be able to do it because nobody knows what the virus is going to do. You know, we're just having this major flare up around the country now. So, you know, we don't know what shape New Hampshire is going to be in December.
Right.
So, or even next March, we just don't know. So we're all just hinged on waiting to see what the virus is going to do. But so right now what we're doing is we're in fundraising mode to try to keep enough money coming in so that we can afford the building. It's really what we're doing because we still have, you know, plowing and accounting and auditing and heat and building maintenance and all that stuff to keep going, electricity, whatever. So we have a lot of expenses and we have no ticket income at all. So we're just trying to survive. Our new president, Ellen Berger, has been incredibly active in getting us to spruce up the studio and do organizational work. And we're starting to do grant applications. And we just participated in the New Hampshire Gives fund drive, which was incredibly successful. But, you know, we kind of have to look past the end of the year in case we can't produce anything, and how are we going to raise money for later on to stay alive? You know, it isn't like we can close up the garage and
right
put the 5 things away.
Yeah, turn off the heat and just walk away. Right.
For a couple of years, we gotta protect our investments in the building.
Yeah. I don't know when anything. This is really just. It's in a crazy time. I thought the 60s were crazy. This is just insane.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
The thing that this reminds me of is the AIDS crisis of the early 80s.
Yes.
In terms of, not so much in terms of contagion, because the COVID virus is infinitely more contagious than the HIV virus.
Right.
But the government response and the public response and the fear level is comparable to what happened then. So, you know, it's all very familiar to me. It's a little more scary because it's so contagious, but
yeah,
you know, I'm being really careful. I do the math. I figure out what's safe and what isn't, and take care of myself. But
yeah.
the fear level is way in excess. In New Hampshire, I find the fear level amongst my friends and acquaintances is way in excess of the risk. Because the New Hampshire right now is only 0.04% infected. That's not 1%. It's not even 0.1%. It's 0.04%.
That's an amazing number.
Yeah, I know. And to me, what it means is, if somebody knows they're sick, they're going to isolate till they get well, or they're going to be in the hospital. You know, that's
right.
what those people are going to be for the most part. So what you really have to worry about is community spread, or coming into somebody who has it but is asymptomatic. But if the numbers of the infected people are so low, I'm presuming that the numbers of infected people that don't know they have it is also very low. Mm-hmm. So the chances of me running into somebody when I walk from here to the park and actually talking to somebody close enough to catch something is about zero.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, almost statistically, right? It's just very close to zero.
Yeah. But if I were in Boston, I'd be doing different math and different behavior, you know?
Yeah.
And certainly in Florida.
Well, that's, you know, you'd think with those numbers, they'd be making some different decisions at the Capitol.
Well, I think Sununu is doing a pretty, you know, a really good job the way he's handling the spread of the virus in New Hampshire, because our numbers are so low. You know, it's a matter of continuing to do things that keep them low. And I don't think going back to school in the fall is one of those things we should be doing.
Yeah.
Because now they have data on the fact that young people can catch it and spread it as easily as older people.
Oh, see, now I had heard it was opposite that. That's interesting.
Yeah. A huge percentage of the big current flare-up is among young people. And I don't really want to talk about the virus.
I know. I'm with you. We'll leave it there.
I'm tired of talking about the virus.
We'll leave it there. Anything else you wanted to touch base on? I was just curious about your business and then that scrim. I just went in your history and theater, but anything you want to talk about?
A lot of people don't realize I was a studio potter for 15 years.
You did mention pottery, and I was going to bring that up, and I thought, no, I could let it rest. All right, but you went there, so.
Yeah, well, I dug out a piece so you could see. This is one of my best pieces. It's a small one. It's just a little cream pitcher, but.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the colors.
Yeah, it's, believe it or not, it's porcelain. It's hand-thrown porcelain, and I made all my own glazes. I created glazes. I became a sort of an expert in glaze composition, and I used to teach glaze composition around the state through the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen.
Okay, hold on. What does that even mean, glaze composition? So you created your own type of glaze? What does that mean?
Glazes are made out of materials, and you get the balance of the materials right, and you end up with a glaze. Glazes are put on the pot after the pot is made, and then it's fired, and it turns into a form of glass. So you're basically mixing glass-making ingredients to create a glaze. And I figured out a easy, simple system to be able to invent glazes. And then, of course, the colors come from different colorants. But, you know, like copper and cobalt and iron metals, basically, provide the color in glazes. But I taught glaze composition around the state for quite a long time. And
all right, you need to forgive my ignorance here. I was under the impression that there was only like one type of glaze. You just made your piece and you put glaze on it, and then you did, I don't know, fired it or something. I don't know what.
Right. Well, that's it. But there just happens to be millions of kinds of glazes.
I didn't know that. And what would be, why are there so many? What's happening that there would be so many? Is there an interaction with the underneath materials, the underlying stuff?
There are 10 basic elements in glaze materials, but glaze materials have combinations of those elements. Not some of them are pure, like the glaze compound flint is just silica. And silica is one of the bases for glass. But then there's 10 elements that are in the ingredients that make glazes. So it's balancing out all those elements and all those materials to get to make a glaze. So you've got millions and millions of combinations.
And why would you want a different one? Is there some property? Is it one more, I don't even know, absorbable? One's more durable? What's the different properties that you'd be looking for?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, you got to think of a glaze as a layer of glass on a piece of clay.
Yep. Okay.
That's the basic thing.
Yep.
So when you're creating a glaze, it has to be something that actually binds to the clay so it doesn't fall off.
Right.
It also has to be stable so it doesn't run down the side of the piece and stick to the kiln shelf. So there's a lot of factors to just getting a glaze to work. Then you have things that can add texture to a glaze or add color to a glaze, can make it transparent or opaque. There's all kinds of things you might want.
That's what I was getting at. I couldn't figure out. To me, I just thought it was a transparent coating, like polyurethane that went on and protected the piece.
No, lot more complicated than that.
So do you own a studio? Did you say you owned one, or you do have?
I did. I was the resident potter at the Manchester Institute of Arts and Sciences first. And then that was about 3 or 4 years. And then I was the resident potter too. So it was my pottery studio, but I also taught classes. And then when that job ended, 2 of my students and I started a pottery studio on Myrtle Street in Manchester. And we were there for quite a long time. We used to go out and do shows and sell pots and, do craft fairs and what have you.
Is it having a renaissance? Because my wife is very interested. She takes her nieces and nephews. I'm up in the Laconia area, but she takes her nieces and nephews there all the time just to do little pieces and get them used to working with clay.
Oh yeah, well, it's always been around. I mean, there've always been pottery classes, or a lot of ceramic classes the pieces are made with a mold and they get fired and you just paint them with glaze. But a lot of people are interested in what's called hand-built pottery, which means you physically make the clay do what you want it to do, or wheel-thrown pottery, which is where there's a potter's wheel spinning, and
like in Ghost.
You throw a lump of clay and I turn it into a pitcher.
Got ya. Can you do that? Are you skilled at that?
Yeah. I was a full-time professional for 15 years.
I have no idea. I'm telling you, I don't get out. This is why I bring people on. I have no idea what they do. So,
hear about my wallpapering career? Never mind, we won't go there.
So it's obviously it's a craft.
Yes.
So you're a skilled craftsman in pottery?
Yes. Yeah. I ended up being a ceramics major in college. I tell people I majored in the letter P. I was a pre-med major to start, and I got out of that and I went into philosophy. And from there I went to psychology, where I got the 28 credits. I was 4 short of a major. And then from pottery psychology, I went to pottery. So I had 4.
Well, I can see the migration. Yeah, that's natural.
Makes a lot of sense.
You're just reworking a different piece of material, that's all.
Right.
So why did you stop? What no market for it? You just get tired of doing pottery? What?
No, my major market died, and I was already doing sheet music part-time, so the pottery literally died at the end of 1 year. And that January 1st, I borrowed $12,000 from the bank, and I went and leased a new minivan, and I drove to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and bought a collection of 12,000 pieces of music. So I just jumped into the deep end.
That would do it. That would do it. That would do it. So when was that? When was your pottery years?
It was I stopped around 84, 85, somewhere in there. Yeah.
What was I want to touch just real quickly on your psychology. Did you ever get to use your psychology besides directing?
The full Monty.
Yeah. Did you ever get to put it into practice? Were you trying to be a psychologist? Was that your goal?
I was going to be a therapist, but I don't know. I think I use it all the time. I mean, I use my music background all the time. I use my psychology background all the time. I use the medical stuff a lot. I mean, I know a tremendous amount about medicine.
Do you know anything about hydroxychloroquine?
I'm not a fan of stupid people.
Just thought I'd reach out and ask that. Right. Oh, okay. Well, that's fascinating.
Right.
All right. Well, that covers everything I've got. Anything else you want to chat about? Well, any more pieces of pottery there?
I'd have to dig them out. I only got a couple of things left. Everything's sold. But I think when I emailed you and thanked you for inviting me here, I told you that I signed off with the word blessings.
Yes.
And I said, there's a story behind that.
Be my guest.
Okay. In 1976, Lacey and his best friend and I went to the Guilford Playhouse to see Ginger Rogers in a production of 40 Carats. And it was the matinee production, so we waited at the stage door for her to come out so we could meet her. And they kept coming out and saying, she's not coming out because she has another performance. And we just stood there and said, it's okay, we'll wait. 45 minutes later, the door opens and there stands Ginger Rogers. And so her opening line was, I understand you won't go away.
Oh.
And then we just chatted for a while and she signed autographs, and nicest person in the world. And so then anytime Ginger Rogers was within 100 miles, whatever she was in, we would go see her, and we'd always go backstage and say hi and hung out with her. And I noticed that she signed all of her autographs, blessings, Ginger Rogers. So after she died, which was quite some time ago, and a very sad day for me, I started signing off when I felt sincere and connected and all that. So I sign off with the word blessings because it's part of the way that I remember her.
That's a great tribute.
Yeah. And we actually got to have lunch with her once in Tarrytown, New York.
No kidding.
Yeah, she was directing a revival of Babes in Arms, the Rodgers and Hart show. And it was supposed to go to Broadway, but it never did. So we drove down, got a motel, told her we were coming, asked her if she'd go to lunch, and she said yes. So we showed up at the theater like at 11:30, and she just took her arms and walked up the street with us to the restaurant just by herself. She didn't have anybody with her. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And then we got talking about her career, and she said, we got talking about Girl Crazy, which was her first Broadway show in 30 or 33. And she said Gershwin wrote the song, but not for me, for her. And I was so spaced out and excited. I said, well, that's really great. And I said, and I love the show, but I somehow can't remember the song. She took my hand and she sang it to me.
No kidding.
Yes. I mean, I was off the ground for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll bet you were. I'll bet you were.
So I got to hear Ginger Rogers sing the song Gershwin wrote for me.
To you, personally, not just hear it in the auditorium.
Holding my hand. So anyway, I remember her by signing off with blessings.
Yeah. Oh, I love that story. That's precious. Did you ever met any other big names?
Oh, tons.
You have?
Yeah.
Have you used the word hang out. You hung out with Ginger Rogers. You specifically said hang. Any others that you've hung out with?
Mostly backstage stuff. When Carol Channing came to Concord to the City Auditorium, we got backstage to visit her. Who's the other one? Lily Tomlin comped us in when she came to Concord because Lacey had been sending her playbills. So people got in touch with us and said, she's coming to Concord. We want to comp you in. So then we went backstage and hung out with her for a while. But
wow.
We've met, I don't know, Mandy Patinkin, Angela Lansbury. The list goes on and on and on.
That's incredible.
Elaine Stritch was wonderful. We spent quite a bit of time with Elaine Stritch over the years.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say spend time, more than just
hanging out backstage, basically.
Gosh. I'm envious. I'm so envious.
It's been and continues to be quite a life.
Yes.
I really feel blessed. I really feel blessed.
Why? Oh, you feel blessed?
Yeah, I feel blessed.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear that last word. I thought you said you feel bad.
I teach diction. I don't actually do it.
Oh, my God. Plus my hearing. Oh, my God. All right, my friend. Well, that was a good way to end. Blessings is a great way to end.
It certainly is.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad for this opportunity.
Oh, man, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's long overdue. We don't hang out, but, what are you going to do?
It's always tomorrow.
Yeah, and with 0.04 chance of getting anything, we could probably have coffee. My God. Well, thank you so much, Wayland. I really do appreciate your time.